Greetings. Welcome back to the Spread, Nesson's sports betting picks podcast. I'm Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined not once again as always, but for the first time on my watch by Keagan Stiefel. That's how you say your last name, right?
Yeah.
That's a good start. So
we had a big
off and running.
It was a big discussion. I think the first 9 times I was on Foxborough Rush, they said it wrong.
Oh.
And then I corrected somebody eventually, and then it became a whole thing.
So I almost went back to look at Foxborough Rush to see what they said. I could have just asked you, but it just feels...
We've worked together for almost 3 years now.
Yeah. I just assumed. So it's not,
You assumed correctly, so it's
not spelled that way, so I
It is spelled that way, actually, because if you look at the Eiffel Tower, it's spelled E-I. Mine is spelled S-T-I-E.
Sure, yeah. It reminds me
tough.
Reminds me of strudel whenever I see it. So that's my take on your name. Anyway, you're here this week. Yep. Ricky's busy doing his actual job, so you and I will get into a whole potpourri of sports betting things. We'll check in with the NFL Combine that's going on this week. We'll do a little Bill Belichick talk. It's been a while since we've done that. Some Red Sox, and then we'll get to the main event, no pun intended, with some WrestleMania Elimination Chamber WWE stuff if we have time. We always end up planning this stuff out and then don't have the time because Ricky and I belabor the point. Perhaps you will be a little less long-winded than we are, but we'll see.
3 years versus 12 that you guys have worked together. So
I was actually thinking about this too, not to get
lots to talk about,
but we'll just put the cards on the table. This will probably be the longest conversation you and I have ever had.
Yeah, definitely. Our Friday mornings, me, you, and Jason, we have a nice little back and forth, but it never lasts 53
No,
minutes.
it does not. So that's so we're gonna cross into new territory here. Yep. I did want to tie up a loose end from last week. I think it was last week. Ricky and I talked about the impending Armageddon, and there's just a sense of doom, basically, that is engulfed every part of life. Yeah. I want to tie the knot on the asteroid. Have you been following this asteroid story at all?
Briefly, but I have a take once you get through your thing.
So last week the numbers were climbing. We were up to I think 3-4%.
We were done.
Incredible. Now this morning a headline, or actually this is a headline from a couple days ago. Asteroid 2024 YR4 no longer poses significant threat to Earth. So I just don't understand how we can go from one end of the spectrum to the other. Although the other end of the spectrum was an implied probability of about 30-1. So there was no major threat, but it was growing. It was consistently growing. It grew about a half percent week by week after we first found out about this. But now apparently it's not a threat at all. So we march on, I suppose.
I'm big into just not paying attention to things until they become very real.
That's a bad way to live life.
Sure, but
I guess it's,
with something like this, there's nothing I can do about it.
I was going to say, obsessing over it the other way doesn't help either.
So worrying about this asteroid hitting me, until it was up around 30%, I was just never going to actually worry about it.
And even 30% is not. 30%
is
odds,
like, right, but we talk, betting podcast. 30%, I'll take something 3-1.
Yeah.
I'll never take something. Doing quick math on that, 33-1 or whatever it would have been.
Yeah, that's fair. And even then, I think Bogota might have been on the war path, the danger path.
Yeah,
it wasn't gonna hit us. So this wasn't gonna be a dinosaur killer. So I think we were gonna be okay. It probably gonna land in the ocean anyway.
Still would have been tough. You never want to see Bogota get.
So one thing I meant to do then, or I should have done, is circle back with some of these offshore sports books that we've been leaning on recently to say, what do I do with my $10,000 that I bet on the velocity of this thing? Do I get that back now? Do we have to wait until 2032? You're just gonna hold my money in escrow or whatever?
Yeah, no, they'll hold it for sure.
I did not make that wager.
Nor should you.
Let's see. Anything else to kind of get into before we get to the actual stuff? We usually talk about cars. How's your car?
It's doing fine.
Good.
If we had this conversation a year ago, like today, I would have just gotten into an accident and totaled my old car.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I think it was 4 or 5 days after I paid off my first car.
That's tough.
That I bought with my own money, paid off the whole thing. I totaled it and was carless for like 2 months, traveling.
2 months?
Yeah. I was borrowing my grandmother's car. A saint of a woman.
Oh, okay.
We love.
I was gonna say, were you still working here? Okay.
Yeah. There was a lot of, hey, I can't come in today. I got to work from home. But the car's doing fine. I mean, knock on wood. I feel like it's gonna change now that I'm on this podcast.
I was gonna say now we have no no time or space for you anymore.
Right.
If you're not going to have car issues, then what good are you?
I know.
Fair enough. And the weather has turned.
Yeah. Sure.
Any thoughts on the weather?
It's nice out.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't have to bring a jacket today, which is always big. I didn't bring one last week during the. A lot of people talking about it. A lot of people being like, "Why didn't you bring a jacket?" I could feel the weather turning. I was excited about it.
Don't remember if I mentioned this last week on the show. This might have been just a conversation I had with Ricky and a few other people in my life. Maybe I'm trying to. It's getting kind of depressed. Like I thought I had maybe was getting up to the line where I needed to go maybe see somebody.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm getting to be midlife. I mean, that's the other thing. A quick detour. We talk about midlife crises being, when you turn 50 or 60.
Yeah.
I'm 37. I'm pushing right up on midlife of the average life expectancy at this point. So maybe it was that. I don't know. The last 2 days, pretty strong indicators. It was just seasonal depression because I'm in a much better mood.
It'll hit every time. I don't know when people start getting depressed, but maybe since I was 12 years old, like January comes around and I am miserable.
Yeah.
And when football season ends and it's still cold.
You haven't even logged a ton of minutes up here either.
I had the nice Texas. I lived in Texas for almost 10 years. So, but then you get back up here and there's the joy of I'm back home. I'm back where I belong. That subsides very quickly when it's 14 degrees outside in February.
That's the thing. It has been so cold.
So a lot of snow. It's like the most snow we've had in 4 or 5 years.
I walked the dog yesterday when I got home from work. It was 45 degrees out. I got home, didn't wear gloves. My hands felt warm. I felt warm-ish walking in. I was like, we haven't been here in a while. It's been so cold. So I also think that this will use a launching off point to get into the actual stuff that we're here to talk about. We are, once you get through February, you hit that, there's this intangible run. I guess maybe it is tangible. You could basically look at it as 6 to 8 weeks where the rhythm of the calendar really just thrusts you into spring. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's, Easter is probably that line of demarcation at the end. That's where you're kind of going toward.
Right.
But you get, I guess you want to call the combine a thing that you start saying, okay, we're getting there.
For me, for sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's see. The Players' Championship for golf.
March Madness.
WrestleMania. The Masters. Now it's Easter, opening day, and now we're going to pretend all of a sudden that 50 degrees is 80. We're back to normal. We're getting we're now in that that tube where you're going. If it's a water slide, we're in. We're going down.
Yeah. There was a long period where it's just football. It's what's the next football event that's coming up. It's the NFL playoffs. It's the national championship game, whatever it might be. I live my life calendar-wise based on sports. What's the next sporting event? What can I look forward to? Nobody else in my life cares as much as I do about it. Maybe not here, but personal life, none of them care. They're like, what's next on your schedule? I'm like, well, the Masters are coming up. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I got into golf recently and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
Do you read books at all? Do you do anything?
Sports books, yeah.
Oh, sports.
It's a problem for a lot of people in my life. They're like, why don't you
consume any
horizons? And no, thank you.
Film?
No, I don't watch TV shows. Me and my girlfriend will watch a movie,
Do you like to cook?
I like to cook. I enjoy cooking. But again, it's
you're just kind of a simpleton.
The Celtics start at 7:30.
Oh my god!
I'd like to be done cooking before 7:30.
I am.
Maybe it'll subside. Maybe it won't. I don't know.
I'm kind of jealous of that. Yeah,
deferring reports.
I don't care at all about sports anymore. So that's part of the issue.
I can't not care about it. Me and Tim, another coworker, we're just talking about all of them today. Yesterday, he was asking me about my spreadsheet that I did last year for the NFL draft. I will watch players and actually try to put a grade on them and stuff like that. Didn't have the time this year, and he was shocked.
That's a sign, Keagan.
I think other people, knowing that I did have the time last year, were shocked that I would put that much effort into something that really had nothing. I got nothing back from it. It was just for the love of the game. So the love of the game stuff is subsiding a little bit.
A healthy progression in life. Also, you have a car now, so you can go places. You don't need to
drive around. I don't have to sit on my couch.
Might as well log some 40 times.
I also, me and you have had this conversation, 2 TV guy.
Yeah.
Which makes sports so much more fun.
Do you have 2 TVs literally next to each other?
Big entertainment
Does it
center.
stay there?
2 TVs. The TV?
Yeah. So you just always
there.
have 2 TVs?
Always 2.
Doesn't that get distracting if one of them's not on? Or doesn't it get distracting if one of them is on?
It did at first, but you learn.
Are they nice?
Yeah.
Is it a well set up thing, or is it just kind of
2 50-inchers, which
holy
Christ, large TVs. Also, I'm a single man. I'm 25. Not single. I have a girlfriend, but 25. I live on my own.
Yeah.
What else am I going to spend my money on?
That's true. We have
it's like student loans and then technology to put in.
That's interesting. I'm curious. All right. Well, interesting. So,
I'll take a picture. I'll send it.
Let me know. Okay. So I'm guessing you're gonna be watching the combine this week.
Absolutely.
That's what we'll start. Once we get
we'll start 25 minutes.
No, trust me, we are on good compared to what we're usually doing.
Okay, good.
That's the key. It's just to talk about other stuff, so I don't have to talk about sports.
Okay.
Nobody's caught on to it yet. I want to start. Let's start with the Patriots. So Mike Vrabel talked yesterday or whatever. I never know the date. He spoke earlier this week.
Tuesday.
I guess the big thing was talking about the money that they're going to spend. I think he said in his press conference that they're going to be aggressive. That word kept coming up. He said he's confident that they'll be aggressive. He had a whole thing about talking about cars. He said talking about shopping. He likes to go shopping. There was some sort of analogy there. He thinks that everybody overspends sometimes in free agency, which is part and parcel for any sport.
Right.
And then I think he went on Sirius XM and said, we want to add players in free agency and then let the draft come to us, which I feel like is it makes sense, but it also feels backwards as opposed to what some teams do. I guess that's what happens when you don't draft well and you're still in the beginning stages of a rebuild. Do you have any takeaways from what Vrabel said yesterday?
I think he read the manifesto, which you can read on Nesson.com.
I'm so sick of that.
Where
it was tremendous work.
Thank you.
Just the word manifesto is.
I know. We've all said it way too much.
Yeah.
Recently. But I think to be serious about it for a moment, that was kind of the goal in doing that, which like, what is a path the Patriots can follow? And I think that's what they want to do, and I think that's what smart teams who currently stink will try to do, right? Let's just fix all of the problems as well as we can, and then don't pigeonhole ourselves into having to do something later on.
Sure.
So I think that's what they're trying to do. Whether or not they're going to be able to do it, who knows? Like, it seems like every priority free agent that they would have targeted is going to be off the board, or their team is doing.
I was
going to
say, is it a good year to want to spend? Like, it doesn't. When was the last time they spent? Like 2018 or whatever.
21 was the year when they signed both the tight ends. They signed Matthew Judon. It was a big.
Yeah, I guess that one does count too.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of the Gilmore year, but that 21 I think fits
Gilmore it was like Gilmore and Chris Hogan were the two big.
Yeah.
And those were just all right. Now we've cemented the team. That's
Sure.
all we needed. We needed a number one cornerback and a decent.
So I guess the point is like they just don't spend. I mean that's nothing new, but
Greg Bedard wrote a story that was very informative about the way they go about things, and it was spending in a 3-year cycle where you can spend all you want for 2 years, but that third year you're going to have to reset everything, which means you're going to have to spend under the cap, which is obviously something we've seen in the last 2 years. So I think this year would have been great if T. Higgins was out there and Ronnie Stanley makes it to free agency. Those are two guys who you can bring in, and it's all right. Left tackle's figured out. We have our number one wide receiver. Now we can draft a defensive player, which is what you want to be drafting in the draft this year. If they can't get those two guys, then what are you looking at? You're looking at a Patrick McCarry and Chris Godwin. Not the same.
I don't know who Patrick McCarry is, but Chris Godwin is a fine player.
Fine player.
They're not getting T. Higgins, right? Like
no, I don't. I think it's close to zero chance.
Bet Online has this is I guess a very important qualifier. Bet Online has odds for like next team, and the Patriots are obviously prevalent in those odds. Ricky and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Maybe the numbers have changed a little bit. They're 7-1 to sign or acquire T. Higgins, but that is if his next team is not the Bengals, and it feels like the Bengals is the most likely outcome. Just kind of diving through these, I guess if you want to talk receivers, any chance? I mean, some of this is free agency or draft or trades. I guess this, which like the NFL is weird too because it's like the trade season might as well be free agency as well.
It's all the same,
right?
Yeah, it all floats in together. I think what have we seen? It's Deebo Samuel's on the trade.
So I was going to say Cooper Kupp 12-1 for the Patriots, which is actually pretty far down the board behind, it looks like 7 teams. Yeah. I mean, it's the Bills are the favorite. Bills, Chargers, Chiefs, Steelers, Broncos, Raiders, Commanders, and then the Patriots.
So good teams and then the Patriots.
Sure, exactly. And then with Deebo a little less, the Commanders, Chargers, Panthers, Broncos, and then the Patriots at 7-1. Do any of those feel realistic to you? Is that kind of check either of these boxes that we're talking about, or is that for me it feels more and more like Fantasyland than reality.
I agree. If you're going to go about it the way they intend to, with trying to make smart decisions, you're going to get into a bidding war for any of these guys, which means you're going to give up big assets.
They're going to spend a buttload of money and get a lot of players, I think,
I would agree with that.
My prediction.
The goal here should be we're going to have veteran starters, offense and defense, and then with the draft, we can take a guy who is just a freak and figure out what we want to do with him. I think the Abdul Carter thing is interesting, whether or not he's going to be available at 4, but I think if he is, it doesn't matter what they did in free agency. It doesn't matter. They're going to take him.
Good transition there. The draft market, I don't know. Have you bet on the draft before? It feels like you'd be good to...
2 years ago, I did.
So, like, the betting community is way into the draft because it feels kind of like at least in the past. I don't know. These things, they catch up. There's no value anywhere anymore and anything, it feels like. But the draft market does seem a little bit soft, especially for the pros.
It's so oversaturated with the amount of information.
Yeah, exactly. And if you move fast, you can kind of pick it up. So you'll see, these pro bettors they'll build spreadsheets out of what like Dane Brugler is saying, and you'll get some good information. Like this guy's definitely gonna be a top 10 pick. Unfortunately, those markets haven't come out. That's probably a post-combine type of deal. The only real draft odds we have on non-offshore books are the number one odds, and number one right now, Cam Ward, the favorite, minus 160.
That's just he's a quarterback.
That feels like a bad reflection of the top half of this draft, or the top, like the premier. I think superstar potential of this draft. It's clear what they're
doing, where it's the 2 quarterbacks and then the 2 good players. And what are you willing to plant your flag into? Do you want like a quarterback is always going to go number 1 no matter what, or are you into the Titans are in a spot where they just need a good football player and they'll draft blank?
I will, as I'm now digging into it, those are my notes.
Okay.
So we've got
we're locked in.
Maybe we're moving the market. Ward is actually down to minus 135. Abdul Carter plus 130, and then Travis Hunter 9-1. The Titans, this is the other market you can bet on, is who will draft number 1 overall. The Titans are still the favorite at minus 360, followed by the Giants and the Raiders. So the consensus is if anybody moves up, it's going to be the
for a quarterback.
Giants or the Raiders for a quarterback. Now you can see how Cam Ward ends up being the pick. If he doesn't go number 1 overall, are you just going chalk with Abdul Carter, or do you think Travis Hunter has?
If I'm betting on it, I'm gonna try to stretch my dollar a little bit. I'm gonna go with Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
I think
I like that. It feels like if he has is he gonna do anything at the combine?
I think he's definitely going to do all the interviews and stuff.
Right.
He said unless they allow him to do both, he won't do just one.
Okay.
He'll do. And the guy at the combine said, if you want to, we're calling you a cornerback. You're going to interview with the cornerbacks, but you can stay and work out with the wide receivers if you want.
I get where you're going with like the value, but the more I think about it, like there's no precedence for this, right?
No.
A cornerback or a receiver going 1 over, like.
That's why
if you're taking him 1, he's playing both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. That's when I look at the draft. If I'm like GM hat, who would I take? That's why I say take Abdul Carter, because there's a blueprint.
Yeah, right.
It's just Micah Parsons. It's the best defensive player in the NFL. Why wouldn't you be like, I'll take that guy? Where Travis Hunter, it's okay. A really good cornerback, maybe not top of the top. The size thing is obviously an issue. He weighs like 180 pounds. And then we'll see what he is at wide receiver. And it's fully dependent on what team he goes to, what coach drafts him. There's too many variables if I'm the person drafting. But when it comes to the betting, Tennessee said we're not going to pass on a generational talent. I don't think they were talking about Abdul Carter. I think he's a great player. I don't think when you say generational talent, it's either a premier quarterback or it's somebody who jumps off the page and does something you've never seen before, which is Travis Hunter. So with the fact that Ward is the favorite because he's the best quarterback, somebody's going to trade up and take a quarterback. If you want to get value, I think you go Travis Hunter, or trying to parlay things together where Cam Ward, you're not getting plus money there, but you can parlay it with what team do you think is going to trade up? Do you think New York's going to trade up and take him? Do you wait and see what they do in free agency? Do they trade for a Matthew Stafford and then you take the Raiders? I don't know. It's there's a reason why they set it up this way.
I look at the board
and
I say, I want to find who is going to be crazy enough to trade up to 1 to take Hunter. Like, and I don't know who that is, but you know what I mean? Like, you're going to get more value on, like, what the Colts do it, and I can get 100-1 that they're going to move. You know what I mean?
There's a team
I'd
out
rather
there
chase that.
Who definitely would chase just the fact that they can say, this is our guy.
Who's going to get
day one
drunk on him this weekend between the on-field and the interview stuff? Somebody is going – that's just what happens in the NFL. People fall in love with the guy.
His pro day is going to be, like – they do all these pro days on NFL Network, and it's going to turn into – like national news outlets are going to be talking about it. Like, can you believe what this guy did at the pro day? He ran a 4.340 and then he worked out for 3 hours. It's somebody, I don't know who it is. He's not going to, people have him like lasting till 4 or 5 or 6. It's not going to happen. He'll be either the first pick or the second pick.
Fair enough. The first pick in your weekly audio habits should be The Spread. In essence, football and sports betting picks podcast drops every Thursday on wherever you get your audio podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple, any number of fantastic outlets. Or one other option is to watch it, and you can do that on. If you have 2 TVs, you can watch it twice.
Celtics on one, Spread on the other.
There you go. You can go to YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Just look for Nesson and throw that up there, and you can watch our beautiful faces. All right. One other thing that you excel at is
some would say
talking about college football, which is something I have no interest in doing, but maybe I will be a little bit more likely to do that this year with Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. Again, we haven't really talked about this much lately, but I was kind of just digging around. We're in like this dark period. There's not a lot. This show is much easier to do in October than it is in February. So I did, again, stumble across an offshore sportsbook, Bet Online, has, and I think there's actually multiple places that have Belichick props. So we've kind of informally discussed this. I think you're probably higher on this idea than I am with Belichick going to Carolina. What are realistic expectations for him in 2025 and maybe beyond at Chapel Hill?
Yeah, I mean,
do you think he lasts after? No.
It's one and done. I think
this is like the college football coach equivalent of a one-night stand, right? Like, it's like we both need something here. Let's feel better about ourselves, and we'll go on.
I'm going to do you guys a great favor. I'm going to bring in an awesome recruiting class. Yeah. It's not up to me to make them stay because I'm going to be gone after this year, but I'm going to bring in – I wrote it down because I thought it was wild seeing it. Their recruiting class went from 76th to 34th in the first 2 weeks that he took over.
Interesting.
It's going to end up top 15, I would imagine, or at least top 20. That alone – and the fact that I do still believe Bill Belichick knows how to teach football. Like, I think he's a good teacher. They're going to improve. How much? I don't love the idea of Freddie Kitchens being my offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Steve Belichick is going to have a great defense. Like a college defense, he's going to do a good job, I would imagine. I think he's going to be able to be really aggressive, which is what they need. But what's the jump? Like, I looked at BC. So 2022, they had 3 wins. 23, they went up to 6. And then 24, the first year of Bill O'Brien, they just went up to 7. They won one more game. They lost their bowl game. UNC in 23 had 8 wins. In 24, they had 6 wins. And 25, can they back up to 8? Like,
total is set at 7.5 right now.
Right. So if I'm betting, it's a betting podcast. Yeah, I'll take the over. It's not more than 8.
Interesting, because like that also too, like. Bill O'Brien, if you want to use him as a comp,
it's the closest one we have.
He has the experience, or had the experience.
Right.
Like, he had a lot of success at Penn State. We know that he's a good college football head coach. Yeah. So he at least had that. The difference, I guess, is I don't know what the numbers were last spring. Their recruiting class, the Carolina recruiting class, is going to end up being a lot better than whatever BC was bringing in last year.
Right.
I don't need you to run the numbers on that. I know for a fact. One school's in Chestnut Hill, the other one is in Chapel Hill, so that's a one place to start. So there is, I guess that's a bit of a wash. Yeah, 7.5. Their schedule is whatever.
It's the ACC.
Yeah. So like, that's the thing is like, is he gonna just like this is where I can't figure out how to feel about Bill Belichick in North Carolina, because it's like, does the idea of being a college football coach and everything else that comes with it outside of Saturdays, does that neutralize his ability to coach circles around insert Georgia Tech head coach here? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Dabo Swinney, does he just pants him left and right? Like that type of stuff. I have a hard time figuring out how much value he adds.
Looking at it right now, take Belichick out of the equation. They're going to beat Charlotte. They're going to beat Richmond. They're going to beat Cal.
I'd be sick if they didn't, but
they're going to beat Stanford, Wake Forest. They've got all those wins. So it's at 5 wins. And then you just have to win 3 of NC State, Duke, Syracuse, Virginia, Clemson, and TCU.
Not a good conference.
It's not a good conference. Clemson's going to, I think, kill them. I think Dabo is an idiot, but I think he recruits the kind of players who would die for him.
Yeah.
And I think they would die to beat Bill Belichick.
Well, he wants to die to beat Belichick too, I'm guessing.
Yes,
like that's
absolutely
primetime player type of deal. He's like, this is my chance to be the center of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of guy he is. But like UCF, sure. Virginia, sure. Syracuse is good. Mm-hmm. They'll be good again. They just lost their quarterback, so
Correct.
How good are they going to be? Stanford stinks. Duke always stinks. They had a quarterback last year, and then NC State. So I think they lose NC State. I think they lose to Clemson. I think they lose to Syracuse. Just don't beef it.
So what's that put them at? Like 8-3 then? They're playing 11 games.
9-3.
9-3.
Yeah, and then TCU is opening week. If they win opening week at TCU, they're gonna get 8 wins.
So some of the other odds here: will they make the 12-team playoff? Is 8-1, which is actually shorter odds than win 10 regular season games, which is 10-1, and win the ACC championship is also 10-1. So the way you just laid that out, I feel like I'd rather bet them to win 10 regular season games at 10-1 than think they have a chance of getting in the playoff.
Right.
But if they win 10 wins, do they get in the playoff?
They need to win the ACC to get in the playoff.
Okay.
The ACC won't have 2 teams in the playoff. Because if you look at the conferences with the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12, I guess the Big Ten and the SEC are both going to have 3 teams. And then all the conference champions, the group of 5, the ACC is fighting for one of 2 or 3, and they're not going to get more than that. The ACC stinks.
Also, will they get to the ACC championship is 5-1. So.
I don't think there's any chance.
Again, you start dealing with offshore accounts or offshore sportsbooks. What will happen first? With Bill Belichick's girlfriend, she enroll in classes at UNC is -120. Dates UNC football player -120.
Classes. I think that's actually just free money. She's gonna take some business.
I was thinking the same exact thing. Yeah,
it's free.
The only thing is like with that is that almost leaning too much into the. Like,
yeah, maybe a little bit. I think dating a UNC football player, there's no chance he would allow that to happen. Because if she starts dating somebody, he's no longer a UNC football player.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter if
point.
it's the starting quarterback. You're gone. You're done, pal. So the classes thing is they're teasing you there. The other ones, I know you're just going to talk about it, but which fraternity will you join?
That I didn't even
put
that
that's
in my
ridiculous.
Notes, I was like,
also, how do you have odds on that? I wasn't a frat guy in college.
I don't. The frat thing's over my head too.
What's the difference between Beta Theta Pi and Chi Psi? Like
why is how does that? How's there even a favorite?
Right.
You know?
Does he join one or does he not? Would have been my guess.
And then what will happen first? He breaks up with his girlfriend -200 or fired at the end of the 2025 season is +150. I don't think he's gonna get fired.
He's not gonna get fired.
So
then I'm
surprised he hasn't broken up with a girlfriend.
Right. I'm curious about if he leaves, do they consider that getting fired? If this relationship lasts more than a year and a half or whatever it would be, because then I'm iffy about it.
Him with the team or his girlfriend?
With the team. So if he leaves, if he's just like, see you later, how are they going to score that? That's my question.
How old is he? 70?
73?
73? 74? Really? He's that old?
Yeah.
We can both look this up. How old is she? She's 24?
24? He's 72. She's 24.
So what is that a difference of 48 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even comprehend. I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day. If my wife tragically, God bless her, passed or something, or came to her better senses, and I was
there you go.
Like, if I as a 37-year-old, or you, how old are you?
25.
Oh, okay. So
no, I was gonna say,
like, me as a 37-year-old dating a 24-year-old is weird. Like,
right.
Let alone a 72-year-old was the point. I was like, I would be like, this is
not to be the girlfriend guy. Love my girlfriend to death. That.
You'd leave her for this one?
No, not a chance. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can only do so much of a person in their 20s. I'm sure women feel this way about young men. Yeah. People in their 20s are idiots.
They are very dumb.
So
maybe she's doing it right.
As a 72-year-old, I just don't know how you do it. I'm a big fan of, is it Linda Holiday?
Linda Holiday, yeah.
tremendous woman.
Seems
Doesn't get enough credit.
I've never met her, but yeah, I'll take
the Kill Bill costume, the being as petty as she's being.
Hell yeah,
I respect it.
Staying in the house.
Yeah, you put in 20 years with the grouchiest.
That's a good point.
The biggest a-hole on the planet.
She's handsome though. I mean, you can't.
She deserves whatever kind of shot she wants to throw his way. She deserves to be able to do that.
100%. I just Googled Bill Belichick real quickly. The first 6 headlines are about him and his girlfriend. Yeah. Apparently, he fell asleep next to her at the UNC basketball game the other night. That's not a great start to the.
Well, those games start at 8 o'clock. That's past his bedtime.
Good point. Well, so does the ACC championship. So take that into the modeling. So. We'll revisit that maybe in the fall here on The Spread, Nesson's Sports Betting Picks podcast. We reconvene every Thursday to bring you all the latest insights and analysis across the board, whatever else you want to bet on, whether it's Bill Belichick and his dating life, the NFL and free agency, or anything in between. You can listen to The Spread on wherever you get your audio podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple, anything else in between, or you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Just go look for Nesson, and you can consume The Spread and all of Nesson's great video and audio podcasts. All right, speaking of like that ramp into spring, spring training's here. I mean, this spring training is kind of an interesting thought experiment because it is similar to the way that we dive into the weather once it gets slightly nicer. You know, talk about not wearing a jacket when it's the first 50-degree day in February. There's going to be more to come. We pretend that baseball is here when we've got 6 weeks left of this. So it's there is some excitement.
18-year-olds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
there is some excitement. I thought, we just check in after a week or so of games. I thought it was funny the other day. They moved back the Yankees game from 1 to 4, which have you ever been to Florida?
No.
It rains every day at 4.
Okay.
Or like between 4 and 5, so that game got washed out. So there's a little fewer games than maybe we would like. But I thought Sunday was a really interesting one. Garrett Crochet looked pretty good in his debut. Alex Bregman looked really good in his debut. The young guys have been impressive. So there's a lot to kind of sink your teeth into. I sent you a list again. I think, right, we're not sponsored by BetOnline, but we might as well be this week. They have some interesting just Red Sox specific props, I guess, is what it was.
Yeah, like stat props.
Yeah, season-long stuff. Did you have a chance to dig into any of these?
I did. I picked out 3.
All right, so give me your first one.
Alex Bregman over 22.5 home runs.
So this is something we talked about last week. The number was 19.5 at it was either FanDuel or DraftKings, I think. So
it's moving.
That is 19.5 is very low. You're still going to go over the 22.5.
I have a thought of sprinkling on 30-plus homers.
That was another one too.
Yeah, because that number when I last saw it was like 480.
It was, I would say 4-1, 5-1. Yeah,
it was like plus 480 when I saw it. So all about that. I think I might be a prisoner of the moment watching him bat with a green monster in front of him. Like, he's a pull side hitter. He just needs to hit a few pop-ups and they're going to get out. I think he might hit 20 at Fenway. So can you get me 5 on the road? His stats at Fenway are ridiculous. His OPS is like 1,200. He's got, I think it's a home run for every 7 at-bats.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's a smaller sample size.
It is a small sample size.
It's against.
But it's, I mean, we're talking playoff numbers. We're talking 18, 21, like good pitching stats he was doing it against. And so the 30 is a lot. I think the 22.5, I'm very comfortable with the 22.5.
That's,
let alone the 19.5, wherever that was.
Yeah, I wish I jumped on that. But I don't like tying up my numbers, so that's
we've had this conversation, too, with futures.
Yeah.
I don't like looking at it
I hate that. Ticket. Yeah, which is probably not something I should admit as a host of a sports betting show, where it's like, I don't actually like betting on this. But that one, it almost feels too obvious. If you look at his home run totals, and it's not like he was playing in the Grand Canyon when he was in Houston. He was aided by the Crawford boxes. The numbers, the home run number, it's not like he's hitting 30 a year.
Yeah.
It is. We're maybe overstating it a little bit.
1 year of 30 plus.
Yeah. So it's not like he's a major power guy. But that's still, again, they're going to make money off of that if it doesn't get over because so many people are going to run to that.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if the number even got adjusted after like Sunday alone. Like it
probably did.
Hit one way over and then hit one off the wall.
My thing is last year he had 26. And then before 25, 23. And then you start getting into like 12. But then 19, 41, 18, 31. This is a long time ago we're talking about. But the last 3 years, he's up over 22.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it makes a ton of contact. And, again, short board. So just get it up in the air and you'd be fine.
I think he's going to poke a few at Yankee Stadium. He feels like a guy who's going to kill the Yankees.
Yeah.
And that's just me being an idiot. And, like, I've watched the Red Sox and the Yankees. And
that's fair.
There are guys who kill the other team.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who's going to kill the Yankees.
Fair enough. My first, I'm taking, again, the habit or the inclination here is to just go over with everything. Just because that's where the mind works. Right. I don't think we're not being homers necessarily, but I am going to take the over on Garrett Crochet's strikeouts at 200.5. He struck out 209 guys last year in just 146 innings. That's 12.9 strikeouts per innings or per 9 innings, basically 13 per 9 innings. The Red Sox. So I think a lot of this comes down to whether they sign him to an extension before opening day. I don't think they are. So if that's going to be the case, he is looking to increase his value, and they might feel less positive or what's the word I'm looking for? Not positive. Optimistic about their ability to sign him to a deal. And if that's the case, then just run him ragged. So I think that basically like the innings numbers are going to go up.
Yeah.
I think it's important to him too. He's kind of talked about like how last year was a big step for him to like he's a guy who's been hurt.
Yeah.
The guy who came up as a reliever. Like this is a huge step forward for him last year. So I think he's gonna log a lot of innings. I was looking at FanGraphs projections. Their steamer projections were the most bullish on him. 170 innings pitched was their projection for this year. That was on the high end, but they have like a handful of different projections, basically in between 150 to 170. If the strikeout numbers go back a little bit, he averages, let's say 12 per 9 as opposed to 13. Over 160 innings, that gets him to 213. That gets us over the number. I also thought it was telling too that he is 8-1 to lead the big leagues in strikeouts behind Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal. So like people expect him to strike out a lot of guys this year. So
the Chris Sale thing too, where just all the parallels, people are going to be like, he's going to strike out 300, right?
Yeah, so like there is that. So, and like the more I actually kind of looked into this, I was like, the innings number is the biggest number here. It's not the strikeouts necessarily, or it's not the rate. If he gets hurt, you're not getting there. It's just you got no shot. But again, 150 feels like even in today's day and age, a number he could get to, and if he gets to that, I think he gets over it. So he's going to strike out a lot of guys. What's your second one?
Tanner Houck, over 10.5 wins. So this is one where, do you have that as well?
Yeah, Tanner Houck over 10.5 wins.
I mean, he's never done it before. He's never had double-digit wins in a season. And I went back and looked at, this is some real math here, but who I believe to be the third best pitcher on the Red Sox in the last 3 seasons, they lead the team in wins every year. Brian Bayo last year, Nick Pivetta 2 years ago. It wasn't Whitlock. It was somebody else the year before Pivetta.
22?
22. Oh, whoever it was in 22, I was like, that's probably the third best pitcher on the team. So I think Tanner Houck's the third best pitcher on the team. I think he's going to go over. And with the way he pitched last year, just how good he was last year, coming into a year where the expectations are almost lowered a little bit. You're not the ace like you would have been if they didn't go out and make 2 big additions. Maybe a chip on the shoulder a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe like I'm going to prove that not only can I pitch more innings, which is something I think they'd like to see, but I can actually win games. Yep. I can go out there and pitch 6 or 7 innings every night. So,
yeah, he had 16 quality starts last year, which again in this day and age is whatever. But 27 pitchers had at least 16 quality starts. All but 2 of them won at least 10 games.
Yeah, that's real math.
It was So it's Houck and Logan Gilbert. 28 pitchers posted an ERA of 3.6 or better. Houck was 3.12. Only 3 of those 28 failed to win 10 games. It was Houck, Gilbert again, and Eric Fetty. And he had the best ERA of anyone who failed to win 10 games. 4 of 26 pitchers with at least 178 innings pitched failed to get to 10 wins. What he did last year should get you to 10 wins more often than not. With a better team, a better defense, a better offense, you probably get there. We're just asking for 2 more wins this year. That feels at least in the realm of possibility. Durability, things like that. Progression not being linear maybe is an issue. Right. I don't know, but I'm with it's a better team, less less
Following the
pressure, all that
trends,
stuff. He pitched well enough to
makes
do it
sense.
last year. Yeah, for basically a coin toss. I like him going over 10.5. That's good. That kills some time for us. What's your last one? Do you have an under, hopefully, or are you just so bullish on this Red Sox team?
I do have an under.
Okay.
Jarren Duran under 99.5 runs scored.
That was almost as close to being my other one. I had that on my list too.
I think because I went the opposite with the way I went with the other ones. Like he's going to be hitting in front of Bregman and Devers. He should score a ton of runs.
The number's probably inflated too. Yeah.
Right. I think this is going to be one of those weird years where they're going to end up settling on a lineup where they're kind of filling the top half with guys who maybe aren't these sluggers, and they're going to try to lengthen it by dropping Devers maybe down 4th or 5th in the lineup, and it's not going to directly tie to Duran. So under 99.5 runs, he scored 80 something last year.
It was I just pulled it up, 111 last year.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I might have been looking at the wrong number. All right, less runs this year. The offense is always going to be good. I think the fact that you play at Fenway Park, you've got a ton of left-handed hitters who can hit it the other way. Like the offense is going to be good. But runs are such a weird thing where 1 year you could score 111, 1 year you could score 60.
I think last year, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, might be the best season of his career.
I would agree with that.
So,
I wish that was something we could bet on.
He led the league in plate appearances, or maybe all of baseball. That's the italics one, right?
Yep, all of baseball.
Plate appearances, at-bats, doubles, and triples.
Played 160 games.
Finished 8th in MVP voting. If you get anywhere near that again this year, you're more than happy. And if you do, he's probably going over because the lineup is so good and there's better run producers behind him. 191 hits. He's got to get to that again. He was remarkably healthy last year.
No
he only missed
slumps.
time because he got suspended, right?
There were no slumps. There were no injuries, no hamstrings or anything like that. This isn't me wishing that a guy's going to get hurt, but at the end of the day, when you start to hit 28, 29, and your whole thing is speed.
Tell me about it.
It's going to...
Even when it's not speed.
all that stuff's going to come down a little bit. So I can't see him... I don't think he's going to steal 30-plus bags again. I think this is going to become a season where... And he's also the kind of guy where I think he's all right, now it's time to hit home runs.
Yeah, too.
He's just going to be swinging for the fences.
Yeah,
we might get a month and a half where he's just trying to hit dingers in the leadoff spot.
100%. That was one I had on my list as well, but I did not make the final cut. What did was Rafael Devers under 91.5 runs batted in, RBIs as they call them. Question about health is a big one. He got 2 shoulder injuries? That's not great. Yeah. Or is it 1? Whatever. Either way.
It's 2. He hasn't even started throwing yet.
So might be behind schedule. There's a story in ESPN about guys going from DH to the infield, or vice versa. Going from the field to DH. Not surprising, but some guys don't react well to that downtime. I do think he's going to end up being the DH when it's all said and done. So that's something to consider. Jose Ramirez was used as an example. Last year he played 126 games in the field. It was a 301 batting average and a 948 OPS. As a DH, it dropped to 192 and 569. Some guys just don't handle it well, so I'm a little bit bearish on that. Assuming he's probably going to hit second in the lineup as opposed to third, which is the better play for the overall offense. Does that take away some of maybe those RBI opportunities? Again, you want to bank on our picks kind of go in concert here, where if Duran doesn't have as good of a year, fewer opportunities behind him.
If Bregman's hitting home runs right in front of him, if he does bat third, then there's no guys on base.
Now everything is connected. That's a good point. I wanted to pull up the numbers. Last year he was injured too, so he was at 83 last year. He's only played 1. Well, no, that's not fair. He's played 3. So when he plays a lot of games, he goes over 100 runs, but 100 runs batted in. I don't know if he's going to get there. Even in 22, he played 141 games, drove in 88 runs. It just feels like he's going to be in that neighborhood, but I would just take the under.
We also haven't talked about the fact that they've got 3 prospects who are all going to make it up at some point.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to get
more
less time.
days off. Yep.
I think they're going to build them in for him specifically, just with the injury stuff. Back to the Duran thing, you need all these outfielders to have time in the outfield, so he's going to get days off.
Especially
last year, there was 0.
If Campbell makes the team, it's easier to give him days off because you can move Bregman around, you can move Campbell around. Right. It's just, it's a lot more.
Campbell can play left field. Rafael is playing center.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, Yoshida has a DH. We're just moving stuff around. There's
Anthony's in right. Willier's getting a day off.
Yeah, so everybody's going to get days off. So good for them. We never take days off here at the Spread Nesson Sports Betting Picks podcast. Drops every Thursday on the Nesson family of podcasts or the Nesson Podcast Network. If you want to listen to it, you can do so at Spotify or Apple. Anywhere else, really, you listen to podcasts. I can find it all over the place, and I do. I subscribe to it everywhere. Or you can watch it on your TV or your computer or your phone. You go to YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, and just search for Nesson. You'll find it. It's awesome.
I listen to the Spread in the car on my way to come see you and Ricky every day.
That is a weird thing, but I'm happy for you.
Everybody
I
else
appreciate
should
that. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Let's get into Elimination Chamber. That is this weekend in Toronto, Rogers Center.
I'm actually excited.
Which host of WrestleMania 6 or 7? Yeah, I'm way back when the Ultimate Warrior run down. Yeah, in 18
wasn't alive for the first one.
That's insane. You're so young. Let's start with the women in the actual Chambers match. BetOnline also has odds for this. Bianca Belair is a prohibitive favorite at -425. Liv Morgan +450. Alexa Bliss 6-1. There's a few others in there. Bailey at 25-1, maybe worth a shekel or two. Do you have any takes on the women's Chamber match?
I've got a big time take. I'm uninterested in seeing 5 of them win this match, so I'm not actually gonna bet on this one just because. Yeah. Why would I? But who I'm rooting for in this match, Roxanne Perez at 16-1. I think Bianca and Naomi should be tied up in the Jade Cargill story.
That's what I can't believe she's a -425 favorite.
That made zero sense to me. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley have 426 matches over the last 2 years. No thanks. Alexa Bliss just got back, and I get it. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Does nothing for me. Bailey was just in a title match last year at WrestleMania. Roxanne Perez, I think, would be a great crash test dummy for Rhea Ripley to just throw around.
If I had to bet on this, I think I would take Alexa Bliss at 6-1.
I would as well.
And rocket ship the return. If you want to throw in the Wyatt thing, they've kind of been MIA.
Too much spooky stuff though with Rhea. And
that's true. It does feel like a Halloween.
Everybody relax.
Halloween Havoc in April.
Can we get somebody wearing pink in this or blue or something? It's black leather on everybody. That's another thing I have to say. Too much black in wrestling right now with the gear. They're all wearing it's like black and blue. That's it.
That's fair. I was just let you see how far you dig your.
I had to dig myself out of that one, but they're all wearing the same stuff.
Okay, that's not something I'd considered there. I will have to take that into my modeling and readjust. For the men's match, as a way to kind of jump into we were talking about this before we came on the air. John Cena is a major odds-on favorite, but the number is shifting a little bit. I think he was -2,000 earlier in the week. It's down to -1,800. CM Punk at +275. Drew McIntyre 9-1, and then everybody else after that, Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, and Logan Paul are at least 20-1. Book this for me. Tell me how it plays out.
CM Punk should win this match. I think, I don't want to steal this from Ethan, our producer, who I think we're going to have this conversation at some point. But for me, where my money is, if you want me to buy WrestleMania back when it was $60, CM Punk, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. Cena's a heel. CM Punk, they try to steal the main event away from him again. He gets his way in through the favor with Paul Heyman, the whole Rock thing in Cody Rhodes, which made zero sense on Friday. That's what I would like to see. So I would bet CM Punk just because you're getting plus money there, but I think it's going to be either him or Cena.
How long has John Cena been in WWE?
25 years.
Why now would he be a heel?
It's the one thing... we saw it when he was the rapper.
The runway is just so short now. I just think it's if it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen. Which, again, if we're fantasy booking, I like where you guys are going. It's far more interesting. I think it's less likely. I think, again, the -1,800 makes it feel like somebody knows something.
Getting me interested in John Cena right now as a face, it's not going to happen. There's nothing you can do. I understand it's his last year.
What about if he's wrestling Logan Paul?
I'm still uninterested in seeing that match.
I think it's going to be Logan Paul. I just can't. And I'm still trying to square the Rock thing from SmackDown. It made no
wrench
sense.
Into everything.
I was telling Ricky, I almost texted Ricky to be like, what did I just watch? Are you watching? I was I have no idea what I just watched. Was it just me?
Was I touching him?
Was I looking at my phone too much? Did I miss some sort of hidden meaning? The consensus is no. So that throws a huge wrench into everything. I don't know if that makes it more likely or less likely that John Cena wins. I don't know what to make of this. if I had to bet on it, I would probably bet Punk.
Yeah.
And is that the Rock's favor thing or the Paul Heyman favor? He helps him and screws over something. I don't know, but like Punk versus Rhodes feels like a much better thing for me to sink my teeth into. I have never had any interest in Cena, Cody for the title. Like that makes no sense to me. No. I don't.
It's and like that Cena, would be them sniffing their own farts, where it's the face of yesteryear versus the face right now, and I don't.
And like Cena has said, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's not retiring after Mania. He is still around for a while. So like, to borrow a Cody phrase, like the story is still like in the middle.
This is so not the end.
Yeah, like he could come back in this title picture 2 months down the road or a SummerSlam. Maybe that's where it is.
When they're in June and it's Money in the Bank or whatever, and they've got nothing to draw people in. That's when you deploy the Cena card and
I think, and then maybe put it on him in June and have him lose it at SummerSlam, and we're done here, and that's it. Goodbye. Thank you for everything. It just feels like I don't know. And again, I keep going back and forth on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that I can't make a whole lot of sense of a lot of programs right now. So there's a whole lot of pieces to be filled in. That is something that maybe we'll do at another time. We are out of time for this week. Keagan, this was a delight. Thank you for stepping in and helping me.
I appreciate it.
That's Keagan. I am Mike. This has been The Spread. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.